Hello class, in this lesson we're going to be talking about the angle sum of a triangle. Our learning objectives are going to be to know that the sum of interior angles in a triangle is 180 degrees and to know what an exterior angle is and be able to find exterior angles in triangles using supplementary angles. So let's get into this lesson straight away with a crucial paragraph, and that is that the angle sum of the interior angles of a triangle is 180 degrees. Now what that means is that if you have a triangle and you add together all the angles within inside the triangle, it's always going to be equal to 180 degrees. So A plus B plus C is going to be equal to 180. Always, the angle sum of the interior angles of a triangle is 180 degrees. That is something you just have to burn inside your brain. You need to know that when you add together all the angles within a triangle, it's 180 degrees. Now, with this piece of information, we can answer some questions. So in this example, what we're being asked to do is find the value of A. So A here is an unknown. We don't know what it is. What we have been given is two known angles. We know that this is 60 degrees and we know that this is 95 degrees. Well, my first line of working out would be the following. I would say, well, I know that 60 plus 95 plus A, that's going to be equal to 180. Because if I add them all together, it's going to be 180. Next, I could say, well, if I go 60 plus 95, I know that's going to be 155 plus A equals 180. And then finally, I can say, well, to find A, all I need to do is take this 180, subtract it from 155, and that's going to tell me that my A is going to be equal to 25 degrees. And just like that, I have solved it. So let me get my highlighter. Now for this topic, you're going to get a calculator. So you can do all these calculations on your calculator, and it's always very wise at the end of all these questions just to check your answer. So I've got my calculator right here and I'm going to go 60 plus 95 plus 25, and look at that, it's 180 degrees. I know I got it correct. So with that, let us move on to our next example. And this one's a little different. What it's asking me to do is, again, find the value of A. But as you can see, I haven't been given any of the angles inside here. They're all unknowns. But what do I know immediately about this triangle? And it's the fact that because I have these dashes here and here and here, I know that it's an equilateral. And hopefully you can immediately say, well, because it's an equilateral, I know that all these angles are going to be the same. And if they're all going to be the same, I know A is going to be equal to 60 degrees. But if we wanted to, we could take this a bit slower. We could begin by saying, well, A plus A plus A is going to be 180. Well, A plus A plus A is 3A is going to be equal to 180. And then I could say, well, A is going to be 180 divided by 3, and 180 divided by 3 is going to be 60. And just like that, we have answered the question. So there's some working out, but hopefully you're able to just immediately say, well, A is going to be 60 degrees because there's 3 of them and they're all equal. And that's just using our knowledge of equilateral triangles. Let's now move on to our next one, in which we are finding what A is again. But hopefully you can think, well, how am I going to do this? I've only been given one angle. But hopefully you realize that, look, I've been given an isosceles, which I can tell by these dashes here. These two lines are the same. So therefore these are the same, which means it's an isosceles. And a characteristic I know of the isosceles is that this angle here is going to be the same on this side, which means that this is going to be 20 degrees. So if I want to find what A is, I'm going to go, it's 20. Whoop, that's not a 0. Let me try that again. It's going to be 20 plus 20 plus A is going to be equal to 180. Then I can go 20 plus 20 is 40, plus A is 180. Therefore, A is going to be 180 minus 40. So my A is going to be 140 degrees. And again, you should always check your answer, get your calculator out and go 20 plus 140 is 180 degrees. We've done it correctly. So that's using our knowledge of isosceles triangles. So this is using our knowledge of isosceles triangles. And over here, we were using our knowledge of equilateral triangles. Let me just put that there. We're using our knowledge of equilateral triangles. Let's now move on to the second half of this lesson, in which we're going to be talking about exterior angles. So if one side of the triangle is extended, an exterior angle is formed. So as you can see here, I've created for myself an exterior angle because this line right here has been extended. Now, there's something very important we have to discuss before we talk about this. And that is that if we have a straight line, we can say something immediately about the angle of that straight line. And hopefully you all know immediately that the angle of a straight line is going to be 180 degrees. Hopefully you all know that if a straight line is just 180 degrees. Well, what happens now if I was to break this up? So let me just put a line right here. Oh, let me try that again. Let me just break it up like that. So now I've broken it up into two sections. I have this section right here. Let's call it B. And I also have this section right here. Let me try that again. This one right here. Hopefully you can see that. It's in purple. Let's call that A. Well, how are we going to solve what B is? Well, I could solve what B is by doing the following. B is simply going to be 180 minus A. That is what my B is going to be equal to. B is going to be equal to 180 minus A. Because if I know this whole thing is 180, if I subtract this side, so if I get rid of this, then I'm just left with that side. So if I get rid of, let me try that again. If I get rid of this side, bang, I'm just left with that. If I subtract A, I'm just left with this side. And that's really what we're going to be doing for the next two examples. So as you can see here, when we have an exterior angle and we know what A is, to find this side, to find the exterior angle, all we do is go 180 minus this angle right here. So this is going to make more sense as we delve into some examples here. So what we have to do here is find X. So here is X right here. We need to find what my X is going to be. And we're going to begin as we normally do when we're finding the angle sum of a triangle. We're going to say, well, this is 62 degrees. I know that when I have a square like this, that means it's 90 degrees. And then I have this A right here, so plus A, and we know that all of that is going to be 180 degrees. The next thing that I'm going to do is say, what is 62 plus 90? So 62 plus 90 is going to be 152 plus A equals 180. And now I can say, well, my A is going to be 180 minus 152. And it looks like I'm running out of a bit of space here, but that's fine. Let me just write this here. It's going to be equal to 28. So that means this right here, this A value is going to be 28. So if I want to find what this X is, what I'm going to do is say that my X is going to be equal to 180 minus 28. And let's just reflect on why that's true. It's true because this right here all the way along, that's 180. So if I now subtract from that 28, I'm just going to be left with my X. And in fact, it's going to be 152. That's what it's going to be, 152 degrees. So that's my value of X right there. Okay, let's finish this off with our last example right here, and then you can get into some work. This time is a little different. We have to find X this time, which is over here. How are we going to do this? So let me just highlight what we're after. The first thing I would do is identify what my A is, and hopefully you can immediately just recognize what it is. If this is 70 degrees, well, this side is going to be 110 degrees. And the reason for that is because we know that a straight line is 180. This is 70. 180 minus 70 is 110. And then what I can do is say, well, I know that the angle sum of a triangle is going to be 180. So that means 60 plus 110 plus X is going to be 180. 60 plus 110 is going to be 170 plus X is going to be equal to 180. So therefore I can say my X is going to be 180 minus 170, which is going to be equal to 10 degrees. So my X right there is going to be 10 degrees. Okay, so with that, we have covered everything we needed to in this lesson. What have we covered? We have covered two big ideas. The first of which was knowing that the angle sum of a triangle is 180 degrees. And then we learned about exterior angles. And we learned how to use how to use something called supplementary angles. And I didn't actually use that word. Supplementary just means it adds up to 180. If we go back here, it uses that word here. It uses supplementary to mean something that is 180. And we'll go into that word later on. It becomes a very important word that you need to know, that 100 supplementary is just adds up to 180. But let's not worry about that too much. You can answer all the questions that we've gone through that I've allocated on Education Perfect with everything I've gone through. Hopefully this lesson has been helpful to you, and make sure to drop into the call if you've got any questions. I'll see you soon.